in the vast expanse of the interstellar colony ship Aurora, where stars streaked past like forgotten dreams and the hum of engines whispered promises of new worlds. Jake Harlan found himself in a predicament that no Earth-born engineer could have ever anticipated. It was supposed to be just another cycle in the shared quarters, 3 roommates thrown together by the lottery of cosmic relocation. Jake, with his tousled brown hair and that easy grin that had charmed his way through more than a few tight spots back on Terra, had signed up for this gig to escape the monotony of planetary life. He was the fix-it guy, the one who kept the life support systems purring and the gravity field stable. But nothing in his training manuals prepared him for what hit that fateful night. The air in their compact habitat pod grew thick, almost electric, as if the ship's recyclers had decided to pump in some exotic pheromone cocktail. Jake tossed in his bunk, the thin mattress creaking under his weight, his eyes wide open in the dim glow of the status lights. It started subtly, a soft rustle from the alcove across the room, then a low, melodic hum that vibrated through the walls. Xy'thar and Vren, his 2 alien roommates from the distant world of Lunara, were stirring. They weren't just any aliens, they were stunning in that otherworldly way that made human hearts skip. Xy'thar, with her flowing white hair cascading like moonlight over her pale, luminous skin, and those delicate elf-like ears that twitched with every emotion. She moved with a grace that could make a man forget gravity, her form curvaceous and inviting, draped in the sheer, elegant fabrics of her homeworld that hinted at secrets beneath. Vren was her counterpart, equally mesmerizing, her white locks framing a face of ethereal beauty, her body a symphony of curves that seemed designed to captivate. They wore those flowing garments that shimmered under the lights, luxurious yet revealing just enough to stir the imagination. At first, Jake thought it was a malfunction, maybe the environmental controls glitching again. But no, this was something primal, something he'd only read about in the xenobiology briefs. Mating season. For the Lunarians, it came like a storm, unpredictable and fierce, triggered by the ship's artificial lunar cycles syncing up too early. And here it was, crashing into their shared space without warning. The hum grew into rhythmic chants, their voices intertwining in a song that was both haunting and seductive. Xy'thar's lithe form began to sway, her hips moving in intricate patterns that were part dance, part invitation. Vren joined her, their bodies brushing against each other in ways that sent sparks through the air, their elf-like ears flushing with a soft glow, the room filled with a scent like wild jasmine mixed with ozone, intoxicating and insistent. Jake sat up, his heart pounding not just from the noise but from the raw energy pulsing through the pod. "Hey, ladies, everything okay over there?" He called out, trying to keep his voice steady, but his words dissolved into the melody. They turned toward him, their eyes, those deep, starry violet orbs, locking onto his with an intensity that made his pulse race. It wasn't aggression. It was hunger, a biological imperative that had them both reaching out, their fingers tracing patterns in the air as if weaving an invisible web around him. He'd known them for months now, shared meals of replicated earth grub and Lunarian nectar, laughed over cultural mishaps like the time Vren mistook his coffee maker for a ritual altar. They were friends, confidantes in this floating tin can hurtling through the void. Xy'thar, the more outspoken one, had confided in him about the isolation of space travel, how her people's traditions felt distant and faded. Vren, quieter but no less passionate, had shown him holograms of Lunara's crystal spires, her voice softening as she spoke of lost loves. But now, in the grip of their season, those barriers melted away. The dances grew bolder, their garments slipping just a fraction, revealing the smooth, inviting contours of their bodies. Jake felt a pull, not just physical but something deeper, a curiosity laced with desire that he hadn't expected. As the night deepened, or what passed for night in the endless cycle of ship time, their movements drew him in. He tried to retreat to his bunk, pulling a thin blanket over his head, but the sounds infiltrated everything, soft moans that echoed like whispers from a dream, the rustle of fabric against skin, the occasional gasp that sent shivers down his spine. Sleep. Impossible. His mind raced with thoughts he shouldn't have, images of joining them, of bridging the gap between worlds in the most intimate way. What would it be like, he wondered, to touch that luminous skin, to feel the warmth of beings from another star? The ship's logs had warnings about interspecies entanglements, but in this moment, rules felt as distant as Earth itself. Xy'thar approached first, her white hair glowing faintly in the low light, her elf-like ears perked with anticipation. "Jake," she murmured, her voice a silken thread that wrapped around him. The season calls. It burns within us. Early and unbidden, join us. Let us share the fire. Vren followed, her hand extending toward him, fingers trembling with need. The air hummed with their combined energy, a force that made his skin tingle. He swallowed hard, his engineering mind kicking in even as his body responded. This wasn't just about noise. It was a collision of cultures, of biologies clashing in the confined space of their pod. But Jake wasn't one to back down from a challenge. Back on Earth, he jury-rigged solutions to impossible problems, fixing fusion reactors with duct tape and sheer will. Here, though, the fix wasn't mechanical, it was personal. As their dances encircled him, pulling him into the whirlwind, he felt a spark of that human ingenuity ignite. Maybe, just maybe, he could turn this chaos into something extraordinary. The pod's walls seemed to close in, the stars outside blurring into streaks as the ship's speed carried them onward. Jake's breath quickened, matching the rhythm of their chants. He reached out, not in surrender, but in curiosity, his fingers brushing Xy'thar's. The contact was electric, a jolt that raced through him like a current from a live wire. She gasped, her body arching toward him, and Vren's eyes widened in surprise and delight. In that instant, the ordinary engineer from Earth became something more, a bridge between worlds, a hero in the making amidst the unexpected storm of desire. As the mating rituals intensified, Jake found himself drawn deeper into their world. The dances weren't just movements, they were stories told through bodies, tales of ancient Lunarian lovers who conquered galaxies with their passion. Xy'thar's hips swayed in hypnotic circles, her garments whispering against her curves, while Vren's hands wove patterns that seemed to paint the air with light. The scent grew stronger, wrapping around him like a lover's embrace, stirring feelings he'd long suppressed in the isolation of space. He tried to rationalize it, blame the recycled air, the proximity, but deep down, he knew it was more. These women, these aliens, saw something in him that no human had, a raw, unfiltered humanity that shone like a beacon in their eyes. "You're different," Vren whispered, her voice husky with the season's pull. Strong, inventive, like the heroes of our legends. Her elf-like ears quivered as she leaned closer, her breath warm against his neck. Jake chuckled nervously. There was no escaping it now. The night stretched on, filled with their melodies and movements, and he realized this was no mere interruption to his sleep. It was the beginning of something cosmic, a tale where a simple human could rewrite the stars. As their bodies pressed closer, the boundaries blurred and Jake surrendered to the rhythm, his mind already whirring with ideas on how to harness this energy, how to make it work for all of them. The ship's alarm would chime soon, signaling the end of the rest cycle. But for now, in this pod suspended between worlds, time stood still. Jake's hands explored tentatively, tracing the soft lines of Xy'thar's back, feeling the subtle vibrations of her song resonate through her. She moaned softly, a sound that echoed in his soul, and Vren joined, their trio forming a harmony that felt destined. In the heart of the Aurora, amidst the cold void, warmth bloomed. Jake, the unlikely hero, was about to discover that sometimes the greatest inventions came not from circuits and code, but from the sparks of connection. And as the mating season enveloped them, he knew one thing for certain: sleep was the last thing on his mind. But even as the passion built, Jake's engineer brain refused to shut off entirely. He noticed how their dances created subtle sonic waves, interfering with the pod's acoustics, amplifying the noise that had kept him awake. If he could modulate that, perhaps build a device to harmonize it instead of blocking it. The idea flickered like a star in his thoughts, even as Xy'thar's lips brushed his ear, whispering promises of ecstasy. Vren's touch was bolder, her fingers sliding under his shirt, exploring the contours of his human form with wide-eyed wonder. So warm, she breathed, her body pressing against his side. The contrast was intoxicating, her cool, luminous skin against his heated flesh. Jake's resolve wavered, but that spark of ingenuity held firm, a thread of humanity weaving through the alien allure. As the first hints of dawn simulated by the ship's lights began to filter in, the intensity peaked. Their chants reached a crescendo, bodies entwining in a dance that invited him fully. Jake dove in, his kisses tentative at first, then fervent, tasting the sweetness of other worlds on their lips. The pod became a sanctuary of discovery, where differences melted into unity. Yet, in the back of his mind, the solution brewed. He would build it not to escape, but to enhance, to make their shared life sustainable. For now, though, he let the season carry him away, a human adrift in a sea of stars and sensation. The story unfolded like a nebula birthing new suns, each moment brighter than the last. Jake's hands roamed freely now, eliciting gasps and sighs that fueled his confidence. Xy'thar arched into him, her white hair fanning out like a halo, while Vren's elf-like ears flushed deeper, her curves molding perfectly against him. In this cosmic tango, Jake felt alive, powerful, a testament to humanity's adaptability. The mating season had started early, but so had his awakening. And as their bodies moved in sync, the universe seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what came next. The universe's breath held, suspended in that fragile moment, as Jake's fingers traced the elegant curve of Xy'thar's spine, feeling the subtle tremor that ran through her like a ripple across a starry pool. Her skin was cooler than he'd imagined, a silken chill that contrasted with the heat building inside him, drawing him deeper into the enigma of her being. Vren pressed closer on his other side, her breath a warm whisper against his collarbone, her elf-like ears brushing his cheek with a featherlight touch that sent sparks dancing along his nerves. The pod's dim lights cast shadows that played over their forms, turning the ordinary confines into a realm of mystery and promise, where every glance, every graze, hinted at secrets yet to be unveiled. Jake's heart thundered in his chest, a rhythm that synced with the low, pulsating hum emanating from their throats, a song that wasn't just sound but a vibration, resonating through his body like an unspoken invitation. He pulled back slightly, just enough to meet Xy'thar's violet eyes, which gleamed with a hunger that mirrored his own growing curiosity. This is new territory," he murmured, his voice husky, laced with the thrill of the unknown, but there was no fear in it, only the electric anticipation of discovery, the kind that made explorers chase horizons across galaxies. Xy'thar smiled, a slow, seductive curve of her lips that revealed the faintest hint of pearlescent fangs, a remnant of her species' ancient predators. Her white hair spilled over her shoulders as she leaned in, her body arching in a way that accentuated the swell of her breasts beneath the translucent fabric of her Lunarian gown. The material was like liquid starlight, clinging to her curves and shifting with each breath, teasing glimpses of the luminous skin beneath. "New, yes," she replied, her accent wrapping around the words like velvet. "But the season whispers of unions that span the void. Let it guide you, Jake." "Feel it?" Her hand slid down his arm, fingers intertwining with his, guiding them to the hem of her garment. The touch was deliberate, suspenseful, each inch of movement building a tension that coiled tighter in his gut. Vren mirrored her, her palm flat against his chest, feeling the rapid beat beneath his shirt. She tilted her head, her elf-like ears twitching as if attuned to some invisible frequency, her own gown slipping slightly off one shoulder to reveal the graceful line of her collarbone. The air thickened further, heavy with that jasmine ozone scent, now mingled with the earthy musk of his own arousal, creating a heady brew that clouded rational thought. Jake hesitated for a heartbeat, his mind flashing to the device's blueprint forming in his thoughts, a compact modulator that could tune their sonic waves into harmony. But the idea faded under the assault of sensations, the softness of Vren's thigh pressing against his, the way Xy'thar's breath quickened as his fingers brushed the bare skin of her waist. He surrendered a little more, pulling her closer, his lips finding the sensitive spot just below her ear. She gasped, a sound that echoed through the pod like a distant thunder, her body melting into his with a fluidity that spoke of eons of evolutionary grace. The dance resumed, slower now, more intimate, their bodies weaving in a suspenseful tango where every step promised escalation. Vren's hands explored his back, nails grazing lightly through the fabric of his uniform, sending shivers that bordered on exquisite torment. "Humans are so responsive," she whispered, her voice a sultry murmur that carried the weight of forbidden knowledge. Her curves pressed against him, full and inviting, her white hair tangling with Xy'thar's as they both leaned in, their faces inches from his. The contrast was mesmerizing, two ethereal beings, their pale skins glowing faintly, elf-like ears alert and flushed, encircling him like twin moons orbiting a sun. Jake's breath caught as Xy'thar's lips brushed his, tentative at first, then deepening into a kiss that tasted of nectar and stardust. It was erotic in its slowness, a build-up that teased the senses, her tongue flicking out to explore with a curiosity that matched his own. Vren watched for a moment, her violet eyes darkening with desire, before joining, her mouth finding the curve of his neck, planting soft, lingering kisses that trailed downward. The suspense hung in the air like a charged nebula. Would he pull away or dive deeper? Each touch heightened the mystery, the unknown biology of their union adding a layer of thrilling uncertainty. He felt their energies intertwine, a subtle psychic hum that Lunarians shared during their seasons, brushing against his mind like a gentle probe. It wasn't invasive, it was inviting. Sharing flashes of emotion, Xy'thar's fierce passion, Vren's tender longing amplifying the physical sensations. His hands roamed bolder now, cupping Xy'thar's hip, feeling the firmness beneath the softness, while his other arm wrapped around Vren, drawing her into the embrace. Their gowns whispered as they shifted, fabric pooling at their feet in elegant disarray, revealing more of their gowned forms that seemed sculpted for temptation. The pod's hum blended with their breaths, creating a symphony of suspense. Jake's shirt came off in a fluid motion, tossed aside, his skin exposed to the cool air and their warmer touches. Xy'thar's fingers traced the lines of his muscles, earned from years of manual labor on rigs and ships, her touch reverent, as if discovering a rare artifact. So strong, she breathed, her body grinding subtly against his, building friction that ignited sparks low in his belly. Vren's lips followed her fingers, kissing down his chest, each press of her mouth a promise of more, her elf-like ears brushing his skin and sending unexpected jolts of pleasure. Time stretched, elastic and infinite in the confines of their world. The stars outside blurred, forgotten, as the erotic tension mounted. Jake's mind raced with the duality, the engineer plotting salvation through invention, the man lost in the allure of these alien sirens. He kissed Vren now, her taste different yet complementary, a spice to Xy'thar's sweetness, their tongues dancing in a rhythm that mirrored their bodies' sway. Hands explored further, skirting edges of intimacy without crossing, building a suspense that made every nerve sing. Xy'thar's thigh slipped between his legs, a deliberate pressure that elicited a groan from deep in his throat. She smiled against his lips, her eyes gleaming with mischief and desire. The season builds slowly, she teased, her voice a husky whisper. Like a star igniting, feel the heat rising. Vren nodded, her hand sliding lower, fingers brushing the waistband of his pants, the touch light but loaded with intent. The air crackled with unspoken questions. What would happen if they pushed further? Could a human withstand the full force of Lunarian passion? Jake's resolve teetered on the edge, his body responding with a fervor that surprised even him. He pulled them both closer, bodies aligning in a tangle of limbs and hair, the erotic pull undeniable. Yet, beneath it all, that spark of ingenuity flickered brighter, fueled by the very energy surrounding him. As their kisses grew more urgent, touches more insistent, the suspense coiled tighter, a spring ready to unleash. The pod felt smaller, the universe vast yet centered here, in this web of desire and discovery. Vren's breath hitched as Jake's hand ventured under her gown, feeling the smooth expanse of her thigh, the heat radiating from her core. She arched, pressing into his palm, her elf-like ears quivering with intensity. Xy'thar watched, her own hands roaming his back, nails digging in just enough to heighten the sensation. The eroticism was in the details, the way their scents mingled, the soft glow of their skins illuminating the shadows, the subtle vibrations of their songs pulsing through him like a second heartbeat. He whispered their names, a mantra in the night, as the build-up continued, each moment layering on the last. The suspense was palpable, a living thing that wrapped around them, promising revelations that could shatter worlds or forge new ones. Jake, the human caught in the storm, felt powerful, desired a hero not through feats of strength, but through the simple act of connection. As their bodies moved in ever closer harmony, the erotic tension reached a fever pitch, hovering on the brink of something profound. Yet, even in the haze, his mind sketched the device, a tuner for their waves, a bridge for their passions. But for now, it waited, as the night unfolded in suspenseful waves of touch and tease, drawing them inexorably toward the unknown. The stars watched on, silent witnesses to the dance that could change everything. The stars watched on, silent witnesses to the dance that could change everything. But in that suspended breath of the universe, a sudden tremor shook the pod, not from their entwined bodies, but from the ship itself. Alarms blared like a symphony of chaos, red lights flashing across the walls in urgent pulses, yanking Jake from the haze of desire with the force of a gravitational pull. His eyes snapped open, the erotic fog shattering as reality crashed in. Xy'thar and Vren froze mid-movement, their violet gazes widening in a mix of confusion and alarm, their elf-like ears perking straight up like antennas sensing danger. The ship's voice echoed through the intercom, mechanical and unyielding, hull breach detected in Sector 7, emergency protocols engaged, all personnel to stations. Jake's heart, already racing from their touches, now hammered with adrenaline. "What the hell?" he gasped, disentangling himself with a reluctant urgency. his skin still tingling from where Vren's fingers had lingered. The pod vibrated violently, the hum of their mating song drowned out by the wail of sirens. He scrambled for his uniform, pulling it on in hasty motions, while Xy'thar and Vren exchanged frantic glances, their luminous skins paling further under the crimson glow. Their gowns, disheveled from the passion, were hastily adjusted, but the luxurious fabrics clung stubbornly, accentuating their curves in a way that made it hard for Jake to focus. This wasn't just a drill. The Aurora was under attack, or worse, colliding with something in the void. "Stay here," Jake barked, his voice cutting through the din like a command from an old Earth captain, but Xy'thar shook her head, her white hair whipping around her face in defiant waves. "No, Jake, the season binds us now, your danger is ours." Vren nodded, her eyes fierce, the tender vulnerability from moments ago replaced by a warrior's resolve. They moved as one, following him out of the pod into the corridor, where chaos reigned. Crew members, humans, Lunarians, and other species rushed past, faces etched with fear. The airlock seals hissed, bulkheads slamming shut to contain the breach, but Jake's engineer instincts screamed that it was more than a simple rupture. Scans on his wrist device flickered, anomalous energy signatures, not debris, but something alive, pulsing like a heartbeat from beyond the hull. They sprinted toward the engineering bay, the ship lurching under their feet, throwing them against the walls. Jake caught Xy'thar as she stumbled, her body pressing against his for a split second that reignited the spark, but there was no time for that now. "Pirates? Asteroids?" Vren shouted over the alarms, her elf-like ears flattening against her head from the noise. Jake's mind raced, piecing together fragments. The early mating season, triggered by the ship's lunar simulators, could it have attracted something? Lunarian biology emitted bioluminescent waves during their cycles, signals that in their homeworld called mates from afar. Out here, in the uncharted fringes, what if those waves had beckoned something else? As they burst into the bay, the scene was a whirlwind of drama, sparks flying from consoles, engineers shouting orders, the massive viewport cracked like a spiderweb across the stars. Captain Alara, a stern human woman with scars from a dozen skirmishes, whirled toward them. "Harlan, get on the stabilizers we're listing." But Jake's eyes locked on the external feeds, clinging to the hull like parasitic shadows were entities ethereal, tentacled forms glowing with the same violet hue as Xy'thar and Vren's eyes. "Void Wraiths," Xy'thar whispered, her voice trembling with ancient terror. Legends from Lunara spoke of them, spectral beings drawn to mating energies, feeders on passion's raw power, capable of draining a ship's systems dry. The thrill of the moment surged through Jake like a current, his body still humming from the unfinished intimacy, now channeled into survival. "They're feeding on your signals," he realized aloud, the curiosity igniting in his chest. "How? Why now?" The surprise hit like a comet. The early season hadn't been a glitch, it was these creatures, manipulating the ship's cycles to lure the Lunarians' essence. Vren clutched his arm, her grip tight, her curvaceous form trembling not from fear but from the pull she felt, a biological tether yanking at her core. "They're calling to us, trying to claim what the season offers." Dramatic tension coiled as the ship shuddered again, lights flickering, power draining. Jake dove to a console, fingers flying over holographic keys, but the systems were corrupted, interfaces glitching with alien code that mimicked Lunarian script. "I can't override," he yelled, frustration boiling over. But then, in a flash of thrilling insight, the idea from earlier crystallized, the device he'd envisioned not just for noise, but for modulation. If he could amplify their mating waves instead of dampening, turn them into a weapon. "Xy'thar, Vren, your song, sing it louder, direct it at me." They hesitated, eyes wide with surprise, but the climax built relentlessly. The wraiths pounded against the hull, tentacles seeping through micro-breaches like smoke, their forms shifting in hypnotic patterns that promised ecstasy and oblivion. Crew members screamed as one latched onto a nearby panel, siphoning energy and pulses that matched a heartbeat. Jake grabbed scavenged parts, a frequency tuner from the toolkit, wires from a busted drone, his hands a blur, sweat beading on his brow. "Trust me," he urged, his voice steady amid the storm, embodying that human heroism that turned desperation into defiance. Xy'thar and Vren, their white hair disheveled and glowing faintly, began to chant anew, their voices rising in a crescendo that vibrated through the bay. The sound was thrilling, a mix of seduction and power, their bodies swaying instinctively, gowns slipping to reveal more of their pale, enticing skins. The wraiths paused, drawn to the amplified signal, but Jake wasn't done. He wired the makeshift device to the ship's emitters, channeling their song through it, tweaking the oscillations with Earth-born precision. The curious twist unfolded. As the waves hit the creatures, they didn't repel, they resonated, overloading the Wraiths' ethereal forms. Surprise rippled through the crew as the entities writhed, their glow intensifying to blinding levels before exploding in silent bursts of light, dissipating into harmless vapor. The ship stabilized, alarms silencing one by one, the breach sealing as power surged back. Captain Alara stared, mouth agape. How? But Jake, breathless and triumphant, turned to his roommates, the device humming in his hand like a captured star. Your passion, my tech together, unstoppable. The thrilling high lingered, hearts pounding from the near catastrophe, but beneath it, the curiosity burned brighter. What else could this union unlock? Xy'thar and Vren rushed to him, their embraces fierce, lips brushing his cheeks in gratitude that hinted at unfinished business. The bay erupted in cheers, humans and aliens alike hailing Jake as the savior. But he knew the real climax was just beginning. The device wasn't merely a shield. It was a key to deeper connections, surprising revelations about what humanity could offer the stars. As the adrenaline ebbed, the dramatic weight settled, leaving them in a hush. Vren's hand lingered on his chest, her elf-like ears still flushed, while Xy'thar's eyes held a new depth, curious about the man who'd turned their vulnerability into victory. The ship sailed on, scars fresh but spirit unbroken, and Jake felt the pull stronger than ever, not just desire, but destiny weaving through the void. Yet, in the quiet aftermath, a surprising whisper echoed in his mind, the device's residual hum, syncing with their biowaves, revealed flashes of Lunarian memories, ancient pacts with the Wraiths, long-forgotten alliances broken. Curiosity spiked. What secrets had he unwittingly uncovered? The thrill of the unknown pulsed like a new heartbeat, drawing them closer in the shadows of the bay. Xy'thar's fingers intertwined with his, her body leaning in with a grace that reignited the earlier fire. You saved us, she murmured, voice laced with awe. Vren nodded, her curves pressing against his side, the luxurious remnants of her gown teasing his senses. The climax had passed, but its echoes thrilled through them, promising more surprises in the nights to come. Jake smiled, the device warm in his palm, a symbol of human ingenuity amid alien wonders. We're just getting started, he said, his words hanging in the air like a challenge to the cosmos. The stars outside gleamed brighter, as if approving, while the pod awaited their return, the mating season's call now intertwined with triumph. But as they walked back, a subtle vibration from the device hinted at something curious. It wasn't fully powered down. Surprising energies lingered, pulling at the edges of reality, suggesting the Wraiths weren't entirely gone, merely transformed. The drama deepened, the thrill building anew, leaving Jake to wonder what other climaxes the universe held in store. In that moment, with Xy'thar and Vren by his side, their presences electric and inviting, he embraced the uncertainty. Humanity's spark had lit a fire across the stars, and nothing would extinguish it now. The story unfolded further, each step a thrilling leap into the surprising unknown, where love, invention, and danger danced in eternal harmony. In that moment, with Xy'thar and Vren by his side, their presences electric and inviting, he embraced the uncertainty. But as the cheers in the engineering bay faded into a murmur of relieved chatter, the captain's voice cut through like a laser through fog. Harlan, report to my quarters, now, and bring your friends. Alara's tone was clipped, her scar-twisted face unreadable under the flickering lights. But Jake caught the subtle arch of her brow as she glanced at Xy'thar and Vren, whose disheveled gowns and flushed cheeks painted a picture that screamed interrupted cosmic rendezvous. He felt a flush creep up his neck. Great. Now the whole crew probably thought he'd been playing interstellar hooky during a crisis. They trailed after him through the corridors, the ship's stabilizers humming back to life, but the drama was far from over. Xy'thar's hand brushed his accidentally, or was it? Sending a jolt that made him trip over his own boot. Steady there, hero, she teased, her violet eyes sparkling with mischief, but her elf-like ears were still perked, attuned to the lingering hum of the device in his pocket. Vren stifled a giggle, her white hair tousled like she'd just rolled out of a nebulous storm, her curvaceous form swaying with each step in a way that drew stares from passing crew. Jake cleared his throat, trying to play it cool. Yeah, well, saving the ship works up a sweat or something. Humor laced his words, but inside, his mind whirled. How do you explain to your boss that your alien roommate's mating vibes just weaponized against space ghosts? The captain's quarters were a stark contrast to their cozy pod, all sleek metal panels, holographic star charts, and a desk piled with data pads that screamed no nonsense. Aurora leaned against it, arms crossed, her uniform crisp despite the chaos. "Explain," she demanded, her gaze flicking between the three of them like a scanner hunting anomalies. Jake launched into the tale, gesturing wildly with the device, a cobbled-together mess of wires and emitters that looked like a kid's science project gone rogue. "So, their season started early, right? Noisy as hell, kept me up. I was tinkering with this to block the sound waves, but then the Wraiths hit, and boom, repurposed it to overload them using their own biosignals." Xy'thar nodded eagerly, stepping forward with that graceful poise that made her gown shimmer enticingly. "Jake's ingenuity turned our vulnerability into strength. The Wraiths feed on passion's echo," he made it a scream. Vren added softly, her hand resting on Jake's shoulder a tad too long. "He's remarkable." The room grew thick with awkward tension, Alara's eyes narrowed, piecing together the rumpled clothes, the lingering scents, the way Vren's fingers lingered like she was staking a claim. Jake shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware of how this looked, two stunning Lunarians fawning over the scruffy engineer who just MacGyvered a miracle. Captain, it's not what okay, it's partly what it seems, but the device works." Alara's lips twitched, fighting a smirk, but she held her ground, heightening the drama with a long pause that made Jake's palms sweat. "So, you're telling me our survival hinged on alien hormones and your insomnia-fueled gadget?" She paced, the click of her boots echoing like judgment. "And now we've got residual energy signatures pinging all over the ship. What if those things come back? Or worse, what if your little invention starts broadcasting Lunarian love calls to every predator in the sector?" Jake's stomach dropped. She had a point. The device vibrated faintly in his hand, as if alive, syncing with Xy'thar and Vren's subtle hums. Awkward didn't begin to cover it. Here he was, the accidental hero, now potentially the guy who turned the Aurora into a floating beacon for horny space monsters. To lighten the mood or deflect, Jake cracked a grin. "Hey, at least it's better than the time I fixed the recycler with chewing gum. This baby's got style." Alara snorted, a rare burst of humor cracking her facade. "Style? It looks like it crawled out of a junkyard orgy." Xy'thar tilted her head, elf-like ears twitching in confusion. "Orgy, is that a human ritual? We have similar on Lunara, but with more crystals." Vren's cheeks glowed faintly, and Jake choked on his own laugh, the situation spiraling into comedic absurdity. No, it's just an expression. Means messy, chaotic, like this whole night." But the humor was a thin veil over mounting drama. Alara's expression sobered as she pulled up a holoscan. Faint violet tendrils lingered on the hull, remnants of the Wraiths, pulsing in rhythm with the device. "We've got to test this thing properly. Harlan, your lead on containment, and you too," she pointed at Xy'thar and Vren, who stood with their elegant postures unbroken, gowns barely containing their allure, report to medical for scans. "Make sure this season isn't compromising ship safety." The awkwardness peaked as a medtech arrived, a gangly human named Finn with wide eyes and a clipboard. He gawked at the Lunarians, stammering, "Ladies, this way, for, bio readings." Xy'thar's brow furrowed. "Bio readings, does this involve probing?" Finn turned beet red, and Jake bit his lip to stifle a laugh. "It's non-invasive, mostly." As they were led away, Vren cast a lingering glance over her shoulder, her violet eyes locking with Jake's in a promise that sent his pulse racing anew. "We'll continue our discussion later," she murmured, her voice a sultry thread that tugged at him. Xy'thar winked, her white hair swaying like a comet's tail. Left alone with Alara, the drama intensified. Harlan, off the record, mixing business with, whatever that is, risky. Jake rubbed his neck, awkward heat rising. "It's not like that, or, well, it wasn't supposed to be, but they are amazing, Captain, and this device, it could change everything interspecies harmony. Literally." Alara sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose, but there was a glint of amusement in her eyes. "Just don't let your gadget turn the mess hall into a love nest. Dismissed." Jake nodded, stepping out into the corridor where the ship's hum felt charged, like the air before a storm. He headed to the lab, device in hand, but drama shadowed him, whispers from crew members echoed. "Did you hear? Harlan and those Lunarian hotties took down the Wraiths with sex vibes." He groaned inwardly, humor bubbling up despite the embarrassment. Great. Now he was the ship's resident space Casanova. In the lab, surrounded by tools and screens, he tinkered, but awkward interruptions piled on. A fellow engineer, Zara, that was one of the alien name suggestions, but here it was Milo, a burly guy with a mustache, burst in. "Dude, Spill, how'd you get two alien babes to sync with your tech? Teach me." Jake fumbled a wire, sparking a small zap that made him yelp. "It's not a pickup line, Milo, it's science." But Milo grinned, slapping his back. "Science with benefits. Legendary." The drama heightened as the device glitched, emitting a soft melody that echoed the Lunarians' chant, drawing curious onlookers. Jake's cheeks burned. Awkward didn't cover having your intimate invention serenade the crew. He adjusted frequencies. Humor his shield. "Okay, folks, show's over, unless you want to join the choir." Laughter rippled, easing the tension, but deep down, the stakes loomed. What if the remnants summoned more wraiths, or worse, amplified the mating season shipwide? Hours blurred, Jake's mind a whirlwind of equations and echoes of Xy'thar's touch. A ping from medical, the Lunarians were cleared, but their signals were evolving, intertwined with his device's code. Drama crested as they returned, slipping into the lab unannounced. "Jake," Vren said, her voice laced with urgency, her gown hugging her curves like a second skin. "The scans show changes our season is linking to you." Xy'thar's eyes gleamed. "Permanently?" Awkward silence fell, broken by Jake's nervous chuckle. "Well, that's one way to say we're compatible." But the humor masked the thrill. Could this be the start of something galaxy-shaking? As they huddled over the device, hands brushing, the drama built, laced with laughter and lingering desire. The ship hurtled onward, but in this lab, worlds collided in ways no one could predict. Yet, as Xy'thar leaned in to help calibrate, her elf-like ear brushing his arm, a humorous mishap struck. The device overloaded briefly, filling the room with a holographic projection of their earlier dance, silhouettes twirling in erotic grace. Milo's jaw dropped from the doorway. Boss, you got ghosts in the machine?" Jake slammed the shutdown, face flaming. "Out!" Classified. The awkwardness was palpable, but it fueled the fire. With Vren's soft laugh ringing, Jake dove back in, determined to master this chaotic symphony. Drama swirled, humor its counterpoint, as humanity's spark illuminated the stars once more. As night cycle dimmed the lights, they retreated to the pod, the device stabilized for now. Xy'thar and Vren flanked him on the bunk, the air thick with unresolved tension. "Tell us more about human rituals," Vren purred, her hand on his knee. Jake swallowed, humor his lifeline. "Well, we start with awkward small talk." But drama whispered, a faint alarm beeped, another signature approaching. The wraith's kin? Heightened stakes gripped them, awkward intimacy blending with peril. Jake gripped the device, ready for whatever came, his companion's presences a bomb and a blaze. In the void's embrace, their story twisted onward, full of surprises, laughs, and the unbreakable human spirit. In the void's embrace, their story twisted onward, full of surprises, laughs, and the unbreakable human spirit. But as the faint alarm beeped again from the device in Jake's pocket, the pod's door sealed behind them with a soft hiss, locking out the ship's lingering chaos. The air inside felt charged, heavier than before, as if the remnants of the wraith's energy had seeped into the walls, amplifying the pull between them. Xy'thar and Vren exchanged a knowing glance, their violet eyes reflecting the dim glow of the status lights, while Jake set the device on the small console, its hum syncing subtly with their breaths. "That signal, it's not aggressive," he murmured, scanning the readings with a furrowed brow, his fingers brushing theirs as they leaned in close. "More like an echo, calling back to us." Vren's hand lingered on his arm, her touch warm and reassuring, her elf-like ears twitching with a mix of curiosity and the season's persistent urge. "Perhaps it's drawn to what we started earlier," she suggested softly, her white hair cascading over her shoulder as she stepped nearer, her curvaceous form brushing against him in a way that sent a gentle shiver through his core. Xy'thar nodded, her own body swaying closer, the luxurious fabric of her gown whispering against his uniform like an invitation. The awkward tension from the lab melted away in the privacy of their shared space, replaced by a deeper, more intimate connection forged in the fires of their recent triumph. Jake felt the drama of the day coalesce into this moment, his heart quickening not from fear, but from the undeniable spark that had been building since the season's unexpected dawn. He turned to them, his eyes tracing the elegant lines of their faces, the pale luminosity of their skins that seemed to glow brighter in the low light. "We should monitor it," he said, but his voice lacked conviction, trailing off as Xy'thar's fingers intertwined with his, guiding him toward the bunk. The alarm's beep softened, almost harmonious now, as if the device itself approved of the shift. Vren smiled, a soft, alluring curve of her lips, and pressed her palm to his chest, feeling the steady rhythm beneath. "Or perhaps," she whispered, "we let it guide us just for tonight. After all you've done, Jake, you deserve a moment of peace, of us, The air grew warmer, the pod's recyclers humming in the background like a distant lullaby as they drew him down onto the soft mattress. Jake's resistance faded, replaced by a wave of longing that mirrored their own. He reached out, cupping Xy'thar's cheek, his thumb brushing her delicate elf-like ear, eliciting a quiet sigh from her that resonated through him like a gentle wave. She leaned into the touch, her body arching gracefully, the gown slipping slightly to reveal the smooth expanse of her shoulder. Vren mirrored the motion on his other side, her hands exploring the contours of his back with tender curiosity, her breath warm against his neck. The three of them moved as one, a symphony of gentle touches and shared breaths, the season's energy weaving through them like threads of light. Jake's lips found Xy'thar's first, the kiss deepening with a passion that spoke of gratitude and desire intertwined. Her taste was sweet, like the nectar of distant blooms, and she responded with equal fervor, her arms wrapping around him, pulling him closer until their bodies aligned in perfect harmony. Vren watched for a heartbeat, her violet eyes darkening with affection, before joining them, her mouth trailing soft kisses along Jake's jawline, down to the sensitive spot at his collarbone. The three of them moved as one, a symphony of gentle touches and shared breaths, the season's energy weaving through them like threads of light. Jake's hands roamed with care, tracing the elegant curves of Vren's waist, feeling the subtle tremble of her response, while Xy'thar's fingers worked at the fastenings of his uniform, peeling it away layer by layer. The gown's fabric pooled around them like fallen stars, revealing the natural beauty of their forms, pale skins that shimmered faintly, accentuating the graceful swells and dips that made them so captivating. Jake marveled at the contrast, his own human warmth against their cooler luminescence, a union that felt both exotic and profoundly right. He whispered their names like a prayer, his voice husky with emotion, as they guided him into the depths of their embrace. Sensations built in layers, the silkiness of skin against skin, the rhythmic rise and fall of breath sinking like heartbeats, the soft murmurs of encouragement that filled the air. Xy'thar's body pressed against his, her movements fluid and inviting, while Vren's touches added a layer of tenderness, her elf-like ears flushing with the intensity of the moment. Time lost meaning in the pod's seclusion, the outside universe fading to a distant hum as they explored the boundaries of connection. Jake felt a surge of protectiveness, his human ingenuity now channeled into this intimate realm, ensuring every moment was one of mutual bliss. He shifted, drawing Vren closer, his lips capturing hers in a kiss that conveyed the depth of his admiration, while his hand caressed Xy'thar's thigh, eliciting a soft, melodic sigh that vibrated through them all. The season's pull heightened every sensation, making colors brighter, touches more electric, as if the stars themselves conspired to amplify their union. They moved together in a rhythm born of instinct and affection, bodies entwining in ways that celebrated their differences and strengths. Gentle waves of pleasure coursed through them, building to peaks that left them breathless, clinging to one another in the afterglow. Jake's mind, ever the engineer, noted how their energies harmonized perfectly with the device nearby, its hum a soft accompaniment that seemed to enhance rather than intrude. Xy'thar's head rested on his shoulder, her white hair fanning out like a veil, while Vren nestled against his side, her curvaceous form molding to his with contented ease. "This is what the legends speak of," Xy'thar murmured, her voice laced with wonder, "a bond that spans worlds." Vren nodded, her fingers tracing lazy patterns on his chest. "And you, Jake, are the bridge." The intimacy lingered, a warm cocoon that shielded them from the ship's perils, but even in this haven, the faint beep from the device reminded them of the world beyond. Yet, for now, they savored the closeness, bodies still intertwined, breaths mingling in quiet satisfaction. Jake kissed the top of Vren's head, then turned to Xy'thar, his eyes reflecting the stars outside. "Whatever comes next, we face it together," he promised, the words sealing their connection like a vow. As the night cycle deepened, they drifted in and out of light slumber, limbs entangled, the pod a testament to the power of unity. Sensations echoed in their minds, the tenderness of embraces, the thrill of discovery, the profound sense of belonging. Jake felt empowered, his human spirit elevated by their love, ready to tackle any echo from the void. The device hummed softly, its energy now a guardian rather than a harbinger. As their bond grew stronger in the quiet aftermath, whispers of affection filled the air, soft laughs bubbling up as they shared stories of their worlds, bodies still close, maintaining the warmth of their shared experience. Xy'thar's hand found his again, squeezing gently, while Vren's elf-like ears perked at a particularly amusing tale from Earth. The intimacy wasn't just physical, it was emotional, a weaving of souls that made the stars seem closer, more conquerable. In this sacred space, Jake realized the true essence of humanity's gift, not just invention, but the capacity for deep, transformative connections. As they held each other, the season's fire banked but not extinguished. He knew this was only the beginning of their journey. The pod's lights dimmed further, cradling them in gentle darkness, where dreams of future adventures intertwined with the lingering echoes of their passion. Yet, even as peace settled, the device's beep grew insistent once more, a subtle reminder that their story held more layers to unfold. For now, though, they reveled in the bond they'd forged, bodies and hearts aligned in perfect synergy. The universe outside waited, but in their embrace, time stood still, a haven of warmth amid the cold expanse. The night wore on, their connections deepening with every shared breath, every tender touch that reaffirmed their unity. Jake's thoughts wandered to the device, its potential now intertwined with their intimacy, a symbol of how love and ingenuity could conquer even the stars. Xy'thar and Vren, with their ethereal beauty and unyielding spirits, had shown him worlds beyond imagination, and in return, he'd given them a piece of Earth's resilient heart. As dawn's simulation approached, they stirred, still entwined, ready to face whatever the signal brought. But the memory of their night lingered, a fire that would fuel them through any storm. In the vastness of space, their love was a beacon, unbreakable and bright. As dawn's simulation approached, they stirred, still entwined, ready to face whatever the signal brought. But the device's insistent beep grew sharper, cutting through the lingering haze of their shared warmth like a distant star piercing the veil of night. Jake reached over lazily, his arm draped across Xy'thar's waist, fingers brushing the console to silence it. But as he tapped the interface, the screen flickered to life with a cascade of data that made his eyes widen. Lines of code scrolled rapidly, not in the familiar Earth algorithms he'd programmed, but in swirling Lunarian script intertwined with something alien, pulsing violet symbols that seemed to breathe on the display. "What is this?" he muttered, sitting up slowly, the sheets pooling around them as Vren propped herself on an elbow, her white hair tousled and her elf-like ears perking with mild curiosity. Xy'thar leaned in beside him, her luminous skin still flushed from their night, her curvaceous form pressing against his side in a comforting familiarity. "It looks like an echo from the Wraiths," she said softly, her voice carrying the melodic lilt of her homeworld. But deeper, perhaps a message embedded in their energy. Jake nodded, his engineer's mind kicking into gear despite the post-intimacy fog, tweaking the settings to decode it. The pod's lights dimmed automatically, as if the ship itself sensed the gravity of the moment, casting their faces in the ethereal glow of the screen. Vren's hand rested on his thigh, a gentle anchor, as the symbols resolved into coherent patterns, coordinates, timelines, and fragments of what appeared to be historical logs from Lunara. The data unfolded like a forgotten chronicle, revealing snippets of ancient Lunarian lore, tales of the Wraiths not as predators, but as guardians, spectral entities bound to protect the essence of their mating seasons from cosmic threats. Jake's brow furrowed deeper. This contradicted everything Xy'thar and Vren had shared about the legends. Guardians? But they attacked the ship, he pointed out, his voice laced with confusion. Xy'thar exchanged a glance with Vren, their violet eyes holding a shadow of something unspoken, but they urged him to dig further. As he cross-referenced the ship's databases through the device, piecing together the puzzle, a holographic projection sprang to life above the console, a shimmering map of the Aurora's trajectory overlaid with Lunara's stellar paths. That's when the twist hit, sudden and seismic, shaking the foundations of everything Jake thought he knew. The coordinates aligned not with random void anomalies, but with a deliberate course alteration logged weeks ago, initiated from the captain's console. Alara's signature was embedded in the code, hidden under layers of encryption that the device's enhanced Lunarian waves had just unraveled. Jake's breath caught. The early onset of the mating season wasn't a glitch or the Wraiths doing, it was engineered. "Captain Alara?" She triggered it, he whispered, the words hanging heavy in the air. But why? The logs deepened the mystery, references to Project Harmony, a classified initiative to integrate human and Lunarian biologies for enhanced crew resilience in deep space. The Wraiths' attack was no assault, it was a summoned response, a test to force the bonding of energies, using Jake as the unwitting catalyst. Vren's grip tightened on his leg, her elf-like ears flattening slightly, while Xy'thar's expression shifted from curiosity to a flicker of guilt that made Jake's stomach twist. "Jake," Xy'thar began hesitantly, her voice trembling for the first time since they'd met, "there's more you need to understand." The projection expanded, revealing personal files, his own, scrolling medical scans from his enlistment, annotated with notes. Subject Harlan exhibits latent Lunarian genetic markers, ideal for integration. Jake stared, the surprise crashing over him like a supernova. Latent what? His mind reeled back to fragmented childhood memories, his parents' vague stories of off-world adoptions, the unusual resilience he'd always chalked up to good luck. He wasn't fully human. Traces of Lunarian DNA, perhaps from a distant ancestor or experimental lineage, had been dormant in him all along. The powerful revelation surged through him, a twist that reframed every moment, the instant connection with Xy'thar and Vren, his intuitive grasp of their sonic waves, the device's seamless synergy. It wasn't mere ingenuity, it was heritage awakening. "I'm part Lunarian," he stammered, turning to them, his heart pounding with a mix of betrayal and awe. Vren nodded slowly, her violet eyes softening with empathy. "We suspected from the start. Your aura resonated with ours in ways no pure human could. Aurora knew she paired us as roommates to activate it." Xy'thar reached for his hand, her fingers intertwining with his, her pale skin glowing faintly as if echoing his inner turmoil. "Project Harmony was meant to create hybrids like you, bridges between our worlds. The Wraiths were called to accelerate the bond, to ensure survival against greater threats lurking in the void." The surprise deepened as the logs unveiled the true peril, not random space ghosts, but an impending invasion from a rival empire, the Dravex Collective, who viewed Lunarian mating energies as a weaponizable resource. Aurora had orchestrated the early season to forge alliances through these bonds, turning potential victims into empowered defenders. Jake felt the weight of it all, the awkward encounters. The erotic pull, the heroic stand against the Wraiths had been pieces in a larger game, but the twist wasn't just manipulation, it was empowerment. As the device hummed louder, syncing with his newly awakened genetics, Jake felt a surge of energy course through him, his senses sharpening, colors vivifying, sounds crystallizing into melodies he could manipulate with a thought. Xy'thar and Vren watched him with a blend of hope and tenderness, their bodies still close, gowns draped loosely in the afterglow of their night. "You're not alone in this," Vren murmured, her curvaceous form shifting to embrace him from one side, her white hair brushing his cheek like a soothing veil. "The bond we share, it's real, not just engineered, it chose us." Jake's mind raced, processing the surprise, but a spark of human defiance ignited within. If he was part Lunarian, then he'd wield it on his terms. He activated the device's full potential, the projection shifting to show simulated outcomes. With his hybrid abilities, they could repel the Dravex, turning the Aurora into a fortress of unified power. Yet, the twist layered further, surprising even Xy'thar and Vren. As Jake delved deeper into his file, a hidden addendum surfaced. His DNA wasn't accidental. It stemmed from a forbidden union decades ago, between a Lunarian exile and a human explorer, making him a key to ancient prophecies on Lunara about a Starborn Mediator who would unite fractured galaxies. The device, now attuned to him, began to emit a soft, empowering glow, enhancing their shared energies. Jake stood, pulling them up with him, the pod feeling alive with possibility. "If this is who I am, then let's use it," he declared, his voice steady, infused with a newfound resonance that made their elf-like ears quiver in response. The surprise settled into resolve, but the drama pulsed onward. Alarms blared shipwide, not from the device, but from external sensors, Dravex scouts approaching, drawn by the unleashed waves. Xy'thar pressed against him, her hand on his chest, feeling the hybrid heartbeat. "We're with you," she said, her violet eyes fierce. Vren nodded, her form radiating strength. Jake smiled, the twist transforming him from ordinary engineer to legendary figure. But at his core, still the man who turned chaos into connection. As they rushed to the bridge, device in hand, the universe unfolded with new mysteries. The Wraiths' echoes lingered, now allies rather than foes, whispering guidance through the bond. Jake's surprise birthright had appended everything, but in the embrace of his companions, it felt like destiny. The stars ahead shimmered with promise and peril, their trio unbreakable, ready to surprise the cosmos in return. The journey twisted further, each step revealing layers of the grand design. Jake's enhanced senses picked up subtle vibrations from the ship, crew members' whispers, Alara's tense commands, painting a vivid tapestry of the impending confrontation. Xy'thar and Vren flanked him, their presences a harmonious counterpoint to his awakening power, their gowns flowing like banners of unity. The pod door slid open, and they stepped into the corridor, the air buzzing with urgency. On the bridge, Aurora turned, her face paling as she saw the knowing look in Jake's eyes. Harlan, you know, the twist hung between them, surprising the crew who watched in hushed awe. Jake held up the device, its glow illuminating the room. Everything, and we're ending this on our terms. The Dravex ships loomed on the view screen, angular shadows against the stars, but with his hybrid edge. Jake interfaced the device with the Aurora systems, weaving Lunarian waves into human defenses. The battle began not with blasts, but with a symphony, Jake's commanded melody disrupting the invaders' shields, the Wraiths materializing as spectral reinforcements. Surprises cascaded. Aurora confessed her role was protective, not manipulative, driven by visions of the prophecy. Xy'thar and Vren channeled their season's energy through him, amplifying the effect, their bonds turning the tide. In the chaos, Jake felt complete, the twist of his heritage a gift rather than a burden. As the Dravex retreated, the ship erupted in victory, but Jake knew this was merely the prelude. Greater twists awaited in the void, but with Xy'thar and Vren by his side, he was ready, humanity's spark, now stellar flame. The aftermath brought quiet reflection back in the pod. Jake lay with them, bodies close, discussing the revelations. I never imagined, he admitted, tracing Vren's elf-like ear. She smiled. Neither did we, but it's beautiful. Xy'thar nodded, her curves nestled against him. The device rested nearby, a silent guardian, its secrets fully unlocked. As sleep beckoned, a final whisper from the logs echoed in his mind, his true parentage linked to Lunara's royal line, making him heir to forgotten thrones. The surprise lingered, promising adventures beyond imagination. In their embrace, Jake dreamed of galaxies united, his story a testament to the power of unexpected truths. As sleep beckoned, a final whisper from the logs echoed in his mind, his true parentage linked to Lunara's royal line, making him heir to forgotten thrones. But the dream shattered abruptly with the blare of the ship's general alert, yanking Jake from the warmth of their tangled limbs like a rude cosmic joke. The pod's lights flared to full brightness, casting harsh shadows over Xy'thar and Vren's startled faces, their white hair disheveled and elf-like ears standing at attention as if saluting the intrusion. Jake bolted upright, the sheets slipping comically around his waist, exposing just enough to make him grab for cover with one hand while fumbling for the device with the other. Not again, he groaned, his voice a mix of exasperation and lingering dream haze, as Vren let out a soft yelp and Xy'thar muttered something in Lunarian that sounded suspiciously like a curse on inefficient human tech. The intercom crackled to life with Aurora's urgent tone. All hands to stations, Dravex Vanguard closing fast. Harlan, bridge, now, and bring that gadget of yours. Jake's hybrid senses tingled, picking up the distant rumble of enemy engines vibrating through the hull, heightening the drama to a fever pitch as he realized this wasn't a scout skirmish. It was the full assault the logs had warned about. He scrambled into his uniform, buttons misaligned in his haste, while Xy'thar and Vren dressed with their usual ethereal grace, though Vren's gown caught on the bunk edge, nearly sending her tumbling into him. Careful, Jake chuckled nervously, steadying her with a hand that lingered a second too long on her curvaceous hip, sparking an awkward flush across his cheeks. We just repelled space ghosts, can't have you defeated by furniture. They dashed through the corridors, the ship alive with frantic activity, crew members colliding in narrow passages, tools clattering to the floor, and one hapless engineer spilling his coffee ration in a spectacular arc that Jake dodged with a hybrid-enhanced sidestep. Watch it, the guy yelped, but Jake shot back with a grin. Hey, at least it's not Dravex acid, small mercies. The humor was his shield against the mounting tension, but inside, drama churned like a storm nebula. If he was truly royal Lunarian blood, did that make him a target or a weapon? Xy'thar's hand squeezed his as they ran, her violet eyes fierce. Remember, you're the mediator, their tech can't touch what we've built. Vren nodded, her elf-like ears twitching with every alarm pulse, but she tripped slightly on her flowing gown, grabbing Jake's arm for balance and pulling him off-kilter into a bulkhead. Sorry, she whispered, her pale skin glowing with embarrassment. These robes aren't made for chases. The bridge was a whirlwind of controlled panic, holographic displays flickering with incoming Dravex formations, sleek, predatory ships slicing through the void like shadows with teeth. Alara spun toward them, her scar pulling tight in a grimace. "About time, Your Highness," she quipped dryly, her eyes flicking to Jake with a knowing glint that made him freeze. The crew paused mid-command, heads turning in a wave of awkward stares. Had the captain just spilled his secret? Jake's face burned hotter than a reactor core. "Wait, what? How did you?" Alara waved a data pad. "Logs don't lie, kid, prophecy or not. Plug that thing in before we're space dust." The drama escalated as the viewscreen zoomed on the lead Dravex vessel, its commander hailing with a guttural demand: "Surrender the hybrid essence or perish." Jake interfaced the device with the bridge console, his fingers flying, but the awkwardness peaked when the system glitched, broadcasting a snippet of their earlier intimate harmonies across the ship-wide comms, a melodic moan that echoed through every speaker. Crew members gawked, some stifling laughs, others blushing furiously. "Oops," Jake muttered, slamming a override key. "Wrong frequency, blame the royal genes." Xy'thar covered her mouth to hide a smile, while Vren's cheeks lit up like supernovas. "Human tech is unpredictable," she said, her voice a mix of humor and mortification, but it broke the tension, eliciting chuckles from the bridge team. Alara rolled her eyes. "Focus, Casanova, or should I say, Prince Charming." The humor was fleeting as the Dravex opened fire, plasma bolts streaking toward the Aurora in a deadly barrage. Jake channeled his awakening power, the device amplifying Lunarian waves through the shields, turning the attacks into harmless ripples. But drama crested when a stray shot breached a secondary hull, venting atmosphere in a whoosh that sent alarms screaming. "Evac that sector," Alara barked, but Jake's senses flared, crew trapped. "I'm going," he declared, grabbing a sealant kit, Xy'thar and Vren insisting on following despite Alara's protests. "You're too valuable," she shouted, but Jake shot back with a wry grin. "Valuable enough to save my people, royal duty, right?" They raced to the breach, the corridor tilting as the ship evaded. Awkward dodges turning into a slapstick ballet, Jake sliding on a loose panel, Vren's gown billowing like a parachute, Xy'thar gracefully leaping debris only to snag her elf-like ear on a low conduit, yelping in surprise. "Ouch, who designs these ships?" she grumbled, rubbing it, and Jake couldn't help laughing mid-crisis. Humans efficient but zero style points. They reached the site, sealing the rupture with Jake's hybrid vibe stabilizing the field, rescuing the pinned crew who stared at him like a legend come to life. "You're the hybrid?" one stammered, eyes wide. Jake shrugged awkwardly. "Yeah, and these are my royal advisors. Now move." Back on the bridge, the drama intensified. The Dravex commander revealed via holo that they sought Jake specifically, viewing his bloodline as a threat to their empire's dominance. "The mediator will kneel or die," he roared. Jake's heart pounded, but with Xy'thar and Vren at his sides, their hands on his shoulders channeling energy, he unleashed the device's full symphony, a wave that disrupted the enemy fleet's cohesion, ships veering erratically. Humor snuck in as one Dravex vessel spun comically, its weapons firing harmlessly into the void. "Looks like they're dancing to our tune," Vren quipped, her curvaceous form tense but her eyes sparkling. The battle raged, awkward near misses heightening the stakes, a console exploding in sparks that singed Jake's uniform, forcing him to strip off the smoldering jacket in front of the crew, eliciting whistles and Alara's exasperated "really?" now. But through it all, Jake's resolve hardened, his hybrid nature turning the tide. As the Dravex flagship faltered, retreating in disarray, the bridge erupted in cheers, but Jake collapsed into a chair, drained, Xy'thar and Vren fussing over him with tender concern. "You did it, our prince," Xy'thar whispered, her lips brushing his ear. Vren added, "Though next time, let's avoid the wardrobe malfunctions." Alara approached, clapping his shoulder. "Not bad for a surprise royal, but this is just the beginning, words out now." Jake nodded, the drama of his new reality sinking in, laced with the awkward thrill of his companion's unwavering support. Humor lingered in his tired smile. "Great, from engineer to emperor. Does that come with better quarters?" The ship stabilized, but whispers of greater conflicts echoed, their trio bound tighter in the forge of chaos, as they retreated to regroup. Jake felt the weight of thrones unseen, but with Xy'thar and Vren's warmth beside him, even the awkward crowns felt conquerable. The stars ahead held more drama, more laughs, and endless possibilities for a hybrid heart. As they retreated to regroup, Jake felt the weight of thrones unseen, but with Xy'thar and Vren's warmth beside him, even the awkward crowns felt conquerable, and in the quiet hum of the Aurora's engines settling after the storm, a sense of peace began to weave through the exhaustion like sunlight filtering through a nebula's haze. The bridge crew dispersed to their duties, patching systems and logging the victory, while Alara gave Jake a nod that carried the weight of unspoken alliances, her role in the grand scheme no longer a shadow, but a foundation for what lay ahead. He led Xy'thar and Vren back to their pod, the corridors now echoing with a subdued energy. The ship's scars a testament to their resilience. Once inside, the door sealed with a gentle sigh, and Jake sank onto the bunk, the device resting quietly on the console like a faithful companion, its glow dimmed but ever-present. Xy'thar sat beside him, her white hair spilling over his shoulder as she leaned in, her elf-like ears brushing his skin in a familiar caress that stirred memories of their shared nights. "You've claimed your place among the stars, Jake," she murmured, her violet eyes reflecting a depth of emotion that transcended words, pride, affection, and a quiet promise of futures intertwined. Vren nestled on his other side, her curvaceous form fitting perfectly against him, her hand tracing lazy circles on his chest as if mapping the rhythm of his hybrid heart. "And we've claimed you," she added softly, her voice a melodic echo that filled the space with warmth. Jake wrapped an arm around each of them, pulling them close, the trio forming a perfect circle of unity amid the vastness outside. For the first time since the revelations began, he allowed himself to breathe fully, the drama of battles and twists fading into the background like distant constellations. In that serene moment, Jake reflected on the journey, from a simple engineer tossing in his bunk over noisy roommates to a bridge between worlds, his Lunarian heritage awakening not as a burden, but as a gift that amplified humanity's indomitable spirit. The early mating season, once a chaotic interruption, had blossomed into a bond that saved a ship, repelled invaders, and unlocked prophecies long whispered in Lunara's crystal halls. He chuckled softly, breaking the quiet. Who would have thought insomnia would lead to all this? Me, a prince with 2 queens by his side. Xy'thar smiled, her luminous skin glowing faintly. Queens, we prefer eternal companions, sounds less stuffy. Vren laughed, the sound light and joyful, easing any lingering tension. And you, our eternal inventor, turning love into legend. As the ship's lights simulated a gentle dusk, they talked of what came next, charting courses to Lunara to reclaim forgotten thrones, forging alliances against the Dravex remnants, and exploring the device's untapped potentials that could harmonize galaxies. Jake envisioned a future where humans and Lunarians coexisted not just in survival, but in thriving symphonies of culture and passion, his story a beacon for others lost in the void. The Wraiths, now understood as ancient protectors, sent subtle pulses through the device, whispers of approval that resonated in their shared energies, binding them closer. Time slipped by in comfortable silence, their bodies entwined once more, not in urgency but in contentment, the season's fire a steady flame rather than a blaze. Jake kissed Xy'thar's forehead, then Vren's, feeling the profound connection that had transformed him. "No matter the crowns or conflicts," he said, his voice steady with conviction, "this us is what matters. Humanity's fuck yeah moment, right here." They nodded, their presences a soothing balm, and as sleep finally claimed them, the Aurora sailed onward, a vessel of hope cutting through the stars. In the end, Jake Harlan wasn't just a hero of circuits and songs. He was a testament to the power of unexpected unions, where a human's ingenuity met alien grace to rewrite destinies. The universe, vast and unforgiving, held endless wonders and perils, but with Xy'thar and Vren at his side, every horizon promised adventure, every shadow hid light. And so, in the heart of the void, their story continued not as an end, but as a beginning, echoing eternally among the stars. And so, in the heart of the void, their story continued not as an end, but as a beginning, echoing eternally among the stars. What a thrilling journey, right? I personally love how this tale celebrates human ingenuity blending with alien passion. It's inspiring and full of heart. What do you think? Would you join such an adventure? Thanks for watching. Your likes, subs, comments, and shares mean the world. They fuel us to create even better stories. See you in the next one.